If gardens are the hidden paradises of China, Suzhou is the paradise of gardens. Among those she hides within her walls, 8 are now included into the World Heritage Sites. The Humble Administrator Garden, the Garden of the Master of Nets, the Blue Waves Pavilion, and the Lingering Garden are among the most famous of them. Often they were created by scholar officials aspiring to escape the worries of their offices. Suzhou leads us towards the secret of Chinese gardens, a mystical place, a dreamland, a fragile and tenacious utopia. A garden is also and ultimately a living body, complete with entrances, vessels, and limbs. Entrances first. The garden, a small and secluded place, endlessly increases its size through its internal divisions. But these partitions are pierced by open-work windows, round doors, and numerous small openings through which the walker can appreciate space and sight, reconstructing the scenes and dividing anew the world. The openings suggest the paths to be followed. Windows and doors gradually reveal the garden to our senses, as the painter's hand carefully unfolds with pride and caution the scroll upon which he envisioned the roaring waterfall. The trail on the side of the mountain, the pine groves and the sea of clouds come to life. The garden indeed is like a scroll, a miniature world opened and enlarged by our walks and our whims. For whoever wanders from one window to another, to the peaceful bamboos, to the banana trees gently whistling in the wind, climbing a rock mimicking the peak of a cliff, or hill of which the summit is hidden, the corner of a roof, a cut in the sky speaking only of emptiness. Through its countless orifices, the garden multiplies the views and the dreams of the one who walks in its midst. The space actually occupied by the garden must be kept modest. Its curves, its turns, and openings extend towards infinity, until it reaches the extent of the soul. Pierced with openings, the garden is irrigated by vessels through which circulate life, breath, and seasons. Water animates a garden. Water collects in a pond and divides channels that flow in its interior. The passerby crosses over miniature seas, fringed with dwarfed vegetation on tiny suspension bridges. Ethereal scents, mixed with the sounds of faint waterfalls, whisper around. The garden captures our dreams between the lines of daylight and shades. Nearby the water are scattered small and pensive trees, pebbles that speak of the shore and strung like a string of islands. A flute, a bird leaving traces of their absence. Irrigated by the vessels that make it a living body, the garden can deploy its limbs, taking the form of a flying dragon, a unicorn, or perhaps one of these Taoist immortals, of whom whether men or gods we do not know. There are also its paths lined with plants and flowers that speak of the virtues shared between the garden and those who called it to existence: temperance, courage, and longevity. And yet, though it maps the full extent of a soul, The garden cannot forget that it is also small, a world condensed to a grain, and yet still just a grain, perishable and insignificant. Throughout history, Chinese gardens, like the phoenix, were often destroyed, burned, redesigned, and then re-emerging. Ultimately, the garden is perhaps a boat, the boat which leads us gently to a sea of things impermanent, and which for a moment makes its bitterness all the more bearable.